Alright, I think I'm live now, according to YouTube. I hope you guys can hear me. Let's see how many folks come in. I just figured I would go live today. I have a nice little setup going on. I have my webcam and my other webcam going so that we can just have a nice little chat. You can see me. I tested all the things on the side of the screen. I'm just going to start doing some prep work for dyeing while we wait for folks to come on in, if anybody's going to come. To get more citric acid in my jar, my little citric acid jar. I think my mom accidentally put this in her coffee, thinking that it was sugar once. So I had to label it citric acid so that nobody would put it in their coffee and have a really bad day. Hi, Nicole. Hey, how are you? Hopefully, okay, good. The chat updated on the screen too. That's great. I was having some issues with the chat, getting the chat to show up on the stream so that people, when they watch it later, they can follow along in the chat and everything. So how are you, Nicole? Thanks for coming by. So I'm just going to start getting things ready to dye. I hope you can hear me. If you can't hear me, let me know. I do have to get more citric acid. And then I'm going to start prepping some skeins of yarn. So I was planning, I have one custom order to finish, one sock blank. I was supposed to dye a couple days ago, didn't get around to it, so I have to do it today because it's supposed to go out by tomorrow. I'm just going to start prepping. As folks come in, don't be afraid to say hi. I'm just doing some work right now. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I tried to get a good setup so you weren't just staring at my face the whole time like last time. But right now I'm cutting some yarn. This is just plain acrylic to, okay, good. I'm glad you can hear. Hopefully it's not too delayed. But right now I am just snipping some scrap yarn so that I can dye, use these as skein holders kind of. I don't know what to call them. Just so I can pull them out and turn them around, turn skeins around in the pot. Hi Samantha, dyeing yarn of the month club today. It was so fun. I thought about doing a yarn of the month club and I wasn't sure if anyone was going to be interested in it. I always get so scared to start something new. Oh my gosh, I have a big yarn barf. I don't know if you can see. Ooh, the yarn barf. What's going on? Yeah. So I didn't dye at all this week. I'm really struggling with my mood lately, so I've just been very unmotivated to do anything. So what you can't see over here, hello, so over this way is the sink. So I have a sink full of water that I'm just going to put my skeins into pre-soak. But yeah, Tuck just went up for a nap, so hopefully he sleeps for a few hours and I have a few hours that I can just dedicate to dyeing. And I'm also happy to share a little bit of my process with you guys on how I do things, because it's not something that you always get to see. I mean, I uploaded earlier in the week or late last week, I can't even remember anymore, how I did reskeining for mini skeins, just because I don't have time to do a podcast. So right now I am this is on the Sparkle, this is a Sparkle sock base. So I'm going to do everyday sock and Sparkle sock. I think today I'll do a little bit of everything. I was worried too, but once the theme came to me I had to do it. Basing on Native American names for full moons. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I can't wait to see what it is. Where do you buy your metal pans? I got these on Amazon. These are just standard restaurant pans. I think they're 4 inches deep. You can get them 4 inches or 6 inches. And I recommend getting a higher quality pan versus one of the really super, super cheap pans, because it's just, they can be kind of thin, and if you get the really cheap ones, they're even more thin, so they might wear out. sooner, but I just got it on Amazon. I just searched for restaurant steamer pans, and that's where I found them. I was looking for these when I first started dyeing. I was like, it's a mystery. Where do people get these pans? But really, they're not that hard to find. Amazon is a great place for pans. Yes. Amazon's a great place for everything. I don't know how many of you, ladies or gentlemen, are Prime subscribers, but we're Prime subscribers and we use Amazon a lot. So so for me, dye lots are usually 4 because 4 can fit in one pan. So I usually do multiples of 4, just for those who are wondering. So now I'm just going to soak. This is just plain water that I'm soaking in. How do you know the different bases for the yarn? So from my supplier, I purchase my yarns through a wholesale distributor. They ethically source their wool yarns, and they offer a variety of bases. There are several really large wholesale distributors that sell undyed yarn. You can also get it from Knit Picks by the skein, a similar type of yarn. If you're looking for undyed yarn, especially if you're only going to dye for yourself, so that you're not stuck buying like 10 skeins or buying like 12.5 kilos of yarn at a time. Thank you. I have Prime, and will you be speckling? Yes, I'm going to speckle. I figured everybody would want to see speckling because that's one of the questions I get most often is how do you achieve speckles? So I've been doing a lot of speckled yarns, so I thought I would just do some speckles. There are a ton of different ways to do it. So you can see the water level in the pan. I already put citric acid in, and the water level is super low. It is less than an inch. It's probably 3/4 of an inch of water. So that's the key to good speckles, is to have high heat, low water, and enough citric acid so that the yarn will take up the dye right away. But anyway, so we're Prime subscribers, and we just started doing fresh delivery, which was what I was going to say. And we're really liking fresh delivery. It makes my life a lot easier. For those who don't know, I have 2 kids under 4. My daughter will be 4 in a couple weeks. My son just turned 2. And so we started using fresh delivery in our area. And it's actually really nice. And it's super convenient. You know, if something's running out during the day and we have a whole bunch of groceries to get, I can order fresh and then get it in the morning at like 4 a.m. Between 4 and 6, they'll drop it on my door. Yay! Thanks so much. You are very welcome, Nicole. I hope that it is helpful for you to watch. I'm sorry if it takes me a little while to do things. This is kind of real-time working. So, you know, it just takes a lot of time to get the skeins prepared, and I didn't have time earlier today to do my prep work, which is always a downside. So yeah, the skeins come in big bags like this, 10 skeins a bag, if you buy them from a wholesaler. And also you can't see over here my big stock of, my stack of dyes. I have 3 huge containers of dyes. Anyway, so I'll at least be able to do a couple colorways, I think, for you all. You have 312, your youngest is 5, it's hectic over the summer. Yes, I have found that to be the case this year. You know, I started my business last summer, and I was really very small. I didn't have any sales. I didn't have, you know, a ton of people following along with me. I wasn't really doing podcasting very often, and like I was just kind of starting out. So last summer, I didn't really have an accurate picture on how the summer would go, and the kids, it's just been hectic, like so incredibly busy, more than I ever thought. And you know, my mood has been really bad. I've been having a little hard time with depression over this summer, and it doesn't help, like my daughter's really going through a tough phase. She's starting to get a lot more defiant and things, so it's not been nice. And the summers are typically a slower period for dyers, so it's hard to get motivated to do things because things are just inherently not as busy because it's the summer and nobody's going to be knitting like tons of things in the summer, like heavy things. So I didn't realize how busy it was going to get this summer. Let's see, did you figure out if you were going to do New England Sheep and Wool? I will probably attend. I can't vend. I think the deadline is passed for vendors. I did look into I did. But again, I've been kind of like in this kind of mood, so it's like I wasn't even motivated to do anything. I've had a couple invites to some local craft shows, but I'm not going to do them this year. I'm just going to wait till next year. I'll start putting in applications in come the winter for some of the festivals next year, and hopefully I can do one or two. What brand of dye do you prefer? I use Dharma dyes. I found that they were easy to get. They have a broad range of colors. They're pretty color fast, wash fast. I don't have any troubles with them except maybe a couple of dye colors that break weird or don't dissolve right. And I think you get that with most any dyes. So this is everyday sock. So I use that. I have about 42 colors or 44 colors of the amount of colors. So that's probably half of what they have in their arsenal for acid dyes. So yeah, that's what I've used. And so when I first started my Etsy shop, I bought 23 or 22 of the dyes so that I could have, just a base of colors. I could mix colors if I wanted to. And, the more I've grown, the more dyes I've purchased. And so the tonals that I offer in my shop, if you look on my Etsy shop, you'll see I offer tonals dye to order, but there's only 23 colors, but I dye with about 44 colors, so there are many more colors there. So I'm starting to revamp how I do tonals and having them ready to ship versus dye to order. So hopefully that will help everybody see kind of like the range of colors that I offer. Totally understandable. I want to meet up if you go. Yeah, that would be kind of cool to meet some folks. I just have to kind of get my head in the game a little bit more than it is. So, how many people are watching? About 9 folks. It's the middle of the day. It's such a random time to be streaming, so I didn't expect too many people to be here, but hopefully some folks watch this afterwards and are inspired or learn a little something about how dyeing is done. Alright, so I'm going to do one more dye lot of everyday sock. Oh no. And so what I'll do is I'll dye the same colorway on both bases. So I'll do one base in this pan and one base in this pan, which helps my workflow go a lot faster. I think there was a question there's an indie dyer business group where people kind of talk shop and talk about, how you get things done, what your workflow is like. That's another reason why I wanted to do this. There we go. Let's see there. Okay. But to show kind of like how you can improve your workflow, I started in a very small pot. So it was, I don't know, one of those standard like pans you would put pasta in, and it was like nothing. And then I got a huge 20-quart stock pot, it covers literally like my entire stove. And then I started using the restaurant pans. So I still use my pots if I'm doing tonals or doing like 1 or 2 skeins, but it's not as time efficient. Like in the time it takes me to dye one tonal, I could dye 8 skeins. So that's what becomes a challenge when folks order tonal skeins or tonal mini skeins. Instead of doing a whole dye lot, I usually just end up dyeing the skeins that they want, especially this summer since I've been, kind of like that. So it's very inefficient in terms of like what I could get done. I'm totally gonna be a fangirl. You don't have to be a fangirl. I'm totally normal. I'm such a normal person. Like, I feel like I'm just so average. Like your average mom, average dyer, average whatever. I cut one too few of these ties. I'm literally trying to tie the entire skein of acrylic to my yarn here. So, but yeah. So that's what I use to tie off my skeins. A lot of folks, if you're in any of the groups, they'll tell you to use shower curtain rings. That works great for some folks. For me, I have a ton of acrylic yarn just laying around, so you can see kind of close up how I tie it off. I just make sure it's not tangled, and then this keeps it from getting tangled in the pan when I'm dyeing. So, and then in terms of soaking, I'm sorry if that's a little loud. I soak my yarn just in my tap water. If I really want to make sure something is speckling, or if I'm worried that the pan's not hot enough or I don't have enough acid in the pan, I will soak in citric acid, like citric acid and water. But my sink is really good for this because it's a very deep sink. I probably can fit like 30 skeins or so in my sink, 32. I think I fit 40. I think that was the max I fit in, and it was really intense. Like, it was like right to the top, and I thought I was going to die a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna heat up the pans. So I do, obviously, you're seeing me dye here, but I dye in my kitchen. I have to run away. Okay, bye, Amanda. We'll see you later. I hope to see you back. I should be back. I should be here for a while. Let's see what's going on with my stream here. Viewers might be experiencing. If you guys are having any problems, let me know if there's any like strange lagging or whatever. I can do my best to adjust the stream, but I think it should be okay. Okay, let me fix my hair. So, I'm getting my pans hot. This is what I do every single time. I heat them up until they're pretty much simmering. So I can still like put my hands and like touch it but not burn myself. I've gotten a very high tolerance for heat in doing this, so it's like, my husband's like, "Are you going to put your hand in that pot?" And I'm like, "Sure." So the things that I have when I'm dyeing, aside from the dyes, which are over here, are my mask, which I don't always wear, so if I don't wear it, it's probably because I'm just trying to talk to you. And then gloves, so I just buy these on Amazon too. I prefer speckling with my fingers, but there are a bunch of different ways you can do speckled yarns. I prefer sprinkling the dye with my fingers because I feel like I have the most control over it, so I'm always making sure I have protection because I don't want to end up, you're still here just watching, okay, cool. I don't want to end up looking like I stuck my hand in like a vat of Kool-Aid, which is pretty much what your hands start to look like after a little while. But anyway, some folks don't. I mean, there are a whole bunch of different dye techniques. So I should preface this as, you know, what works for me doesn't work for everybody, and it doesn't work for every technique that you're trying to do. So, for speckling, this is what I do. Sometimes there are times where I wring the water out of the yarn and then put it in the pot, or there are times where I'm soaking with citric acid. This one I'm tending not to. So it's just like, depending on your technique, it changes how you prepare your yarn. So some people even put dry yarn in a pot to achieve a certain effect, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like soaking my yarn because I feel like it opens up the yarn a little bit to be able to get the dye like directly into the skein. And especially for speckling, the elusive speckle that everybody, even I, sobbed over for like the longest time. It's really not, it's a harder technique, but it's not so hard that you can't achieve it. And you know, if you don't succeed the first time, try again. Like, you should always try as hard as you can to achieve what you want to achieve. If you want to dye speckled yarns, work to practice speckling until you get to the result that you like. So, alright, I'm just going to put my yarn in the pots now. I'm just laying them with the ties facing away from me. And I try to spread them out so as much surface area of the yarn is showing. I know a lot of folks don't like to use flat pans like this because you have to turn the yarn, but to me, I prefer them. I like the control I have over where I'm putting the color, and I don't mind flipping it because I do use the ties. So I just make sure that all the ties are out while it's warming up. These are still kind of cold. I like speckling with yarn is dyed, or tonal with speckling. Do you dye first and speckle? I do. So that totally makes sense, Nicole. That makes sense. So it depends on the colorway. So right now I'm just going to dye on the bare yarn colorways, and I'll dye the same colorway in both hands. So, for example, the divination colorway that I have, it's a tonal gray with blue and purple and gray speckles on it. So I dye the tonal first, and I'll do that in the pan. I'll just put a little bit more water in the pan, and then do washes of color with a bottle, and then I will speckle over that. This is included. There's a little dye in my pan, but whatever. I'll just try and dye a color that is using that color. Do you have any votes for colors? What colors people want to see me dye today? I'm happy to dye whatever. I do want to dye Luna. I think I might dye Luna right now. I had a request for someone to bring it back in my next update, which is totally cool. Alright, so you can see here, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but the water, you can see where the water goes over my hand. It is just barely coming to the top of the yarn, which is why I pre-soaked it. I didn't wring it out really all that much, and I just put it in the small amount of water. Now I'm going to wait for it to get super hot, which it is starting to get hot. The thing with these pans as well, I'm going to put a little too much water in this one. The thing with these pans as well is sometimes the heat can be spotty, so you'll get like a concentrated area of heat in one area and not the other area. So I do like to kind of swish the water around while it's heating up to kind of get it all bubbly. And I also apologize if it's loud. We have an electric stove. Fall colors. Pumpkin spice. Everybody died of pumpkin spice. Alright, well I am going to do Luna on this first batch because I did promise someone it would be up in the next shop update. So for Luna, I use 3 colors. There's a cool tone pink, a warm yellow, and then a blue tone purple. Those are the 3 colors. I'm not going to tell you which colors they are, but those are the tones. Let me see like how dirty my shirt's going to get. It's just going to be bad. I also have a very suggestive wet spot on my shirt, right over where my chest is. Okay. So let's see. Now I have to decide what I want to do with the yarn that's in the sink. It's the problem with working with a small kitchen. So literally, you guys are on top of my fish tank. You can see here, I have 0 space next to my stove, and then I have about not even 3 feet of counter space behind me, and then I have a whole table back there, but it's not very convenient for dyeing. Don't fall. Like literally, it's the most precarious position that you're in right now. So, let me get the colors. Alright, so these are the colors that I'm using. I'll put on my mask like a good girl. You should use protection. Do as I say, not as I do. This just makes it harder for you to see what I'm saying, and it also makes it hard for me to breathe. I get a little panicked when I have a mask on. Like I do want to invest in a respirator to protect myself. So you can see these are just Dharma Trading Company dyes. I should protect myself more. But I get like anxious with the mask on my face. I don't know if anybody else out there does, but I do. And if you have trouble hearing me, let me know. It's hard to judge how loud my voice is outside the mask. There's too much water in this pan, so I'm going to take some out. I'm just going to use a glass. There's no dye right now. This is not. And if anybody has questions, I see there's about 14 folks watching. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Don't be afraid to chat. I'm happy to answer anything. So I should have maybe another hour and a half where my son is asleep, so you can hear me well. Okay, good. And before I have to go get Cece at camp, so I'm just going to make sure these are really hot. So the key is for speckles is really hot, hot, hot water. Like boiling, like nice. You get a nice steam coat over the whole top area of the yarn, so that's what really makes the speckles adhere. If you're using, you can use liquid dye to achieve speckled effects as well. Just there's a difference between kind of like speckling and then variegated like pooling yarns. There's a whole myriad of techniques. So this technique I'm going to show you is how. Hi, Jade. How are you, Jade? So there's a whole myriad of techniques. I'm dyeing Luna, by the way. So you know, to achieve a speckled look. My Mooney colorway, for example, has a speckled appearance, but I use liquid dye. I don't use the powdered dye generally. I did alter my recipe to make the green, use the green as a powdered dye and speckle it on, but it's very intense. So this is Luna. This is what I'm dyeing. It takes 3 colors. Again, if you're just joining in, I'm going to protect myself. So any newbie dyers or dyers looking to learn, it's always important to protect yourself. You only have one set of lungs. You know, the dye materials, the powder is toxic, so you never want to breathe it in. You never want to have, you know, little ones running around while you're dyeing if you're using powder dye. So you should always, I'm doing okay. I'm doing much better. Oh, I love you, Jade. So I think it's everybody's favorite. A lot of folks really love Luna. So anyway, you should always protect yourself. This is a mask that filters out microparticles that I got directly from Dharma. It's like a dust mask almost to prevent you from inhaling microscopic particles. So I really highly recommend that you wear gloves and you use a mask. I don't always use a mask. It's a bad habit I've gotten myself into, but this gives me such bad anxiety. And yes, I saw Nicole, you have bad anxiety as well. It makes me feel like I can't breathe. Like if I can't freely breathe from my nose, or if like hot air is going like up above my eyes, like coming up this way from the mask, I start to panic. So. Alright, so we're going to get dyeing. The water is boiling. I'm going to turn it down slightly. And so for this color, I like to start doing tonals. Yes, I did tonals in some variegated yarns where I was just pouring liquid dye in. And it's all just an experiment. It's something that should be really fun. Even if you don't do it as a business, like there's a point where it turns from a hobby to a business. And for some folks, it's really hard. So just remember to always have fun in what you're doing. You know, don't go into it thinking like I am going to be this gigantic dyer, because I'm not. I just do this for fun. I do this because I enjoy it. And so if you enjoy variegated yarns and you want to dye them, dye them. If you like speckled yarns and you want to dye them, dye them. Just practice and learn. Tonals are deceptively hard. Tonals can, especially if you're really trying to achieve something that's super consistent, that's really hard. I'm holding my breath. I do that too. I like hold my breath. I get the dye ready, and then I hold my breath, and then I do the dye, and then I rinse and wash my hands, and then I breathe. So like I do it in like 2 steps. Okay, here we go. We're gonna dye. So I'm gonna start with the pink that I use, and this is a very light colorway, so I'm not gonna go crazy with pink, and I'm just sprinkling it wherever the heck I feel like, because that's how I do things. So that's enough color for that, believe it or not. And then I always have a damp towel or a damp paper towel to wipe my hands off. So I don't know if it's easier for you to see here. Just to wipe the excess dye off my fingers. The dry dye likes to adhere to wet surfaces. So I always dampen my fingers and wipe them down. If you use a spoon, it's easy. You're just tapping the color off on the spoon or a tea strainer. Or if you're using liquid, you're just dropping the color where you want it. So for me, this is how I prefer to do it, and you can do it any way that achieves the effect that you like. Oh my god. I literally have hair stuff. Okay. Second color. Here we go. We're going to do a yellow. So the main colors of this yarn were the pink and the yellow for Luna. And then I really wanted to spice it up with something that was a little different. Is this speckling? So it's a variegated speckle. So speckled yarns are a type of variegated yarn. Variegated means more than one color in there. So this is speckling. Water is low, heat is high, and I'm using the dry dye powder, but you can use any technique that works for you. You can see I'm wiping my hand again. I don't want to contaminate my dye pots. So, so it's just little blips of color on the bare base. And the key for this is low water, high heat, because and not a lot of citric acid, but enough citric acid so the dye will strike right away and set right away with the hot water. So these, you can probably hear, are bubbling and boiling. So they're literally boiling, like it's hot. But as long as you have water in your pan, this is not like steaming, where you have your yarn above a boiling pot of water using the steam. Like, you are using steam here, but it's submerged in water. So I'm not worried about scorching my yarn unless I run out of water. So folks also use covers on these to help seal in the heat while the colors set, but I don't have any covers, so I don't use them. But again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Okay, and then the third color, which is a blue tone purple. Now this color is really funny. This is one of those strange Dharma dyes that when you speckle with it, it shows up more blue than purple, but when you dye it as a tonal, it shows up more purple. Well, it's still kind of more blue than purple, but it's a blue-violet. It's really a blue-violet. Like the color of my gloves, but intensified. So now this is a very little. I don't want to use much at all. I'm just taking the smallest pinch. I feel like I'm over a cauldron right now. Whoa. How do you know how much to use? So if you're dyeing, do you mean if I'm dyeing speckled yarns, or do you mean if I'm dyeing anything generally? So this is the first coat of color. I'm going to let the colors set. The way I know that the colors are set is if I touch the yarn. Yes, I'm going to touch boiling hot yarn. If I touch the yarn and the color doesn't transfer to my hand, then I know that the color is set. This has a little more blue on it than I wanted, but whatever. Different bases take things differently. I guess I'll just start answering while I wait for your response, but if you're doing a tonal yarn or a pooling variegated where you're using a dye stock, you need to know your concentration, your dye stock concentration. So you use measuring spoons or a scale to measure your dye powder into a certain volume of water, and you get your percentage. How much dye per how much liquid. And that's how you base your recipe. So there's a lot of math involved, and wait, okay, what I'm doing right now, I don't measure. I literally am eyeballing it. So if I'm dry speckling yarn, this has taken a lot of practice, but you need to use a lot of control. So there are different methods to dye. I prefer using my fingers because even though I probably burn myself more than I should, I feel like I have a much more precise control. Now you can use eyedroppers by using a really high concentration of dye, and you can speckle the dye on top of the yarn that way. You can use a spoon and tap it off like this with dry dye powder, which is how I started doing speckling. You can use your hands. Some people use a salt shaker, so they will put citric acid and salt and dye into a salt shaker, or salt, like sea salt and dye in the salt shaker, and then sprinkle it over the yarn, which you get a whole different effect from. So that's how I am doing it. I'm just eyeballing it, but I know how much I want to have because of how much dye I can feel between my fingers. So it's really a tactile thing. I can do that. I'm dying. I'm like having panic with that thing on my face. I need to get my thing. What are those called? tongs. I need my tongs. By the way, this is the blue purple that I was talking about. So it comes out extremely bright, but it comes out like this blue violet. I do have to do the other side. That's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm fairly certain that these are set because everything is steaming so high. Yes, I'm touching boiling water. Don't do this. So this dye is set. It's not transferring to my fingers at all. So I am going to flip the yarn using the ties that I put on earlier. And then I try and flip it so that I get the totally bare other side. And the way I spread the yarn is the skeins are like this. And if you lay them in the pan like this, you're only getting like the top layer of strings. But if you lay them in the pan so that the skein folds to the side and the strands can spread out, you have a much more even dye job. And a lot of indie dyers, this is something that we all struggle with because the skeins just kind of go how they want. But if you're really careful, you can make sure that your dye job is evenly done in these pans by ensuring that your skein is facing the right way. So you want to try and expose as many strands as possible by laying the yarn like this, so that the dye goes from the beginning of the skein all the way to the end of the skein, and not just on the top layer or the bottom layer, if that makes sense. So that's something that I'm always cognizant of when I'm dyeing. And again, it takes a lot of practice to do stuff like this, but you know, anytime you're dyeing in a pan like this, you are going to have a bit of unevenness. You know, one side might be darker than another side. You know, the beginning of the yarn or the end of the yarn might be darker. But again, it's all just in practice. So now I'm flipping very precariously. And as you can see, this whole entire side is blank. And that means that I had enough acid, I didn't have too much water, I didn't have too much bleeding. And these colors that I'm using right now tend to not bleed too much through to the other side of the yarn because they strike hard and fast. And there are other colors that I dye that don't strike as hard or fast, and they do tend to spread a lot more. Stuff like navy or black, those things will spread more. But you will just work that into the look of the yarn. You know, nothing is perfect. You know, like Bob Ross says, there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. So you just learn as you go, and you make beautiful things. And if you're enjoying what you're doing, then you're doing everything right. Okay, so now I'm going to speckle the other side. Let me get my handy dandy mask on because, woo, I hate these masks. They make me feel so claustrophobic. Okay, so now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do the same order. I'm going to start with pink and just speckle. So if anybody has questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer anything. And what's great right now is that the chat log is updating on the screen, so anybody who watches this afterward will be able to see the questions that you've asked. And so even if you think it's a silly question, even if you were asking about me or whatever, please feel free to ask anything, literally. I have no cares, and it might be useful for someone else watching later. So yeah, so I just started with pink, now I'm going to do yellow, and then I'm going to do the purple. And dyer tip, I do label my yarns on top. My yarns my dyes on top. So I put a color swatch with the name of the color on top so that I can see which color is which without having to read the label or read the bottom for the number, because each tub has a number on the bottom for the number of the color. And this color, this blue purple, is so intense. Like, it literally takes grains of the dye to create the color. And this level of speckle that I want is so delicate. Like, I know it looks like probably there's a lot of dye on my fingers right now, but this was such a small amount of dye that I am picking up. Yay! I'm glad you tuned in too. We're speckling! Yay, speckles! What is that? Hashtag speckles are so hot right now? What a trip it would be if Stephen West came in here while we're speckling. That would be kind of funny. I'm glad you're here too. I can't read your name. Jilly? Jilly? H? Jilly H? I have to change the chat color so it shows the, because right now the chat is like gray and white. It's hard to read. Alright, so we're 42 minutes in. This is 8 skeins, 4 in Everyday Sock, 4 in Sparkle. And right now I'm just waiting for dye to set. Cleaning off my hands. Oh, jeez. I just inhaled my hair. This is why I hate masks. I hate masks. Excuse me. Beautifully honest, this is a good idea for all the people who want to learn. Yeah, it's a good idea to tune in. I mean, I'm all for, like, I don't want to say, like, the exact colors I'm using or, you know, exactly where I get my yarn from, but, like, most indie dyers are using the same types of dyes and get their yarn from one of maybe 3 or 4 major suppliers. So all you really have to do is kind of Google and you'll figure things out. But I'm all for sharing techniques because, you know, there are always things to be learned, things that, you know, people don't know how to do well that they want to do. And if people are very strict with information in terms of, like, unless you have something really proprietary, something that only you do, only one style that's like, oh, like you can't share with anyone else how you do it. I totally understand that because this is a really high competition market, but a basic technique like speckling shouldn't be a big mystery for everyone. How often do you create in colorways when inspiration hits? Or do you plan ahead? Both. I dye colorways so that I can, I do plan ahead. So I plan ahead with the seasons. I try to come up with ideas before the seasons hit, although I'm not always good at being ahead of the game, especially during the summer. Or if I'm watching a show that I really like, I'm feeling really inspired to dye a colorway, I will just dye it. Like, I've been watching Game of Thrones. I don't know if anybody else is Thrones fans out there, but a couple weeks ago I dyed up Jon Snow's R plus L equals J, and Mother of Dragons. So I just did that on the whim, just because I felt like it. And then there are things I do plan for. Maybe doing Halloween or fall. Oh, I will do Stranger Things too. I definitely will. I have to wait for the show to come so I can, like, you know, appropriately dye things that I feel are really good. But I will bring back a couple of those colorways for the fall, the ones that were more popular. And yeah, I'm trying to brainstorm different ideas for fall because I liked the colors I did last year. I did the tree series last year. So for those who've been following me since the beginning, last year I did Elder Tree, Whomping Willow, and Wigan Tree. Those were my 3 fall colorways, and they were very layered, very complicated colors. I don't necessarily want to keep doing those every single year because they do require like 7 layers of color and multiple treatment processes, which is, interesting thing to watch. But it's very labor intensive, like not nearly as labor intensive as this. I'm just going to check. I'm touching boiling water. Don't do this, children. Don't touch the boiling water. Okay, so this color is set. No, that's not set yet. This one needs a couple more seconds. So I'm just checking to see if it's set, and once all the colors are set, I will remove it from the heat and wash it. But first I have to take all the yarn that's soaking out of the sink. Let's do that. So I have maybe 1 or 2 bags of soft yarn left before I have to reorder. Again, I haven't done a ton of dyeing this summer. And then I have DK and worsted weight. I don't know if I have anybody in here who's really into DK or worsted weight. Last year they weren't super sellers for me, but just what the mood is with everybody, what people are feeling this year. Alright, so I'm going to add a little bit of soap to this. This is just cool water that I was using to soak the yarn. So I'm going to add some Eucalan soap. It's very concentrated, so I don't need a lot. And what that will help me do is get any excess dye out, which there shouldn't be any bleed out from this because everything is very well set. It's not oversaturated with color. And it'll help me wash out some of the citric acid because when you're speckling and you have a high level of citric acid and it doesn't quite get rinsed out all the way, it gives your yarn a little bit of a sticky or crunchy texture. If you think of Sour Patch Kids, citric acid is what makes Sour Patch Kids really sour. And if you have it on your fingers, the crystals, and you don't completely wipe it off, and you touch your fingers together, you'll know that it's sticky. If it gets wet, it gets sticky. So I want to avoid that in my yarn. Did you start dyeing because you're a stay-at-home mom, or is it something you always wanted to do? I started dyeing because I was feeling a bit jaded. I'm a crocheter. I started out as a crocheter, and I hated all the yarns that I was working with, and I really wanted to expand my skill set, and I wanted to, do something for crocheters that people weren't necessarily doing in droves, or that wasn't well known. So my shop started as, I was selling finished objects, I was selling teething rings, hats, and, items for kids, but I didn't like that, and I didn't want to do it anymore, and I wanted to do something else that was much more inspiring for me and for other people who are knitters, crocheters, weavers, spinners, whoever. So that's pretty much why I started dyeing. I had the intent of just continuing my business, as a hobby, but taking it extremely seriously, and doing and treating my business as if it was a full-fledged, 100% gung-ho, everybody's totally into it type of business, where I took every colorway seriously, I took notes, so I went into it with that, even though I was keeping it as a hobby, and so now I've kind of grown over the last year. I just hit 1,000 sales, and I'm feeling really happy about that progress, and I've just kind of let things kind of grow organically. Just kind of getting to know the folks who are buying my yarn, the colors that they like to see, the colors that I like to dye, and I just kind of put all those things together into one lovely bunch and just kind of have fun with it. That's kind of what I have. Will you be stocking DK Sparkle? Probably not. I probably will just stick with the DK bases I have. I have 2. I have the Simple DK, which is a single ply superwash, and the DK Merino DK, which is 100% superwash merino, but it's a 4-ply, and it's nice fine superwash merino, so it's 115 grams, so it's 250 yards per skein, so it's really nice. It gives you a lot of yarn, and it's also really soft, so that's pretty much what I was sticking with. All right, now to put you on here. Yes, I do have a tub of Eucalan. So I'm just putting a couple of cups in here. That's all you really need. I think it's like It is a teaspoon per gallon, so this is probably 3 gallons of water. In my sink right now, it's not very much water. And I just did 2 cups, so that shouldn't kill me. For those who don't know, this is superwash yarn. If this was non-superwash yarn and you're speckling on it, you need to turn the heat off. You need to let it come to room temperature before you wash it. This is tepid water. It's room temperature water. It's not particularly cold. But because it's superwash treated, I can put it directly into the wash right now. But if you do that with non-superwash yarn and you try to, wash it out with any sort of agitation, you are going to felt your yarn, or fiber or anything. So you have to let things cool if it's not superwash. Okay. And if I used covers on this, you'll see the water level is much lower because I've had a ton of evaporation here. I would have much less evaporation, so I wouldn't have to restock my water all the time. So I'm just trying to get the extra water out of the yarn. Try not to burn my fingers in steam. And then going into the wash. Dyers use different things to wash their yarn. So if you're a consumer of indie dyed yarns, the dyer that you're purchasing from should be putting in their description, the type of handling that they have with their yarn, if they have pets, and then what kind of cleansers they're using for their yarn. Some dyers use Synthropol, which is a detergent. Some people use Blue Dawn dish soap. Some people use Eucalan. So depending on your personal preference or sensitivities, different dyers do different things that might appeal to you more. So you definitely should check out the dyer's listings for their yarn. So I'm just popping fresh water in here because my pan is low. I'm not going to show you the depth of it because this pan is boiling hot. I'll burn myself. I won't do that. This is like the boring part where, the boring parts are when you're waiting for yarn to set and when you have to refill your water or citric acid. Alright, that seems to be enough water. I am going to top a little bit of citric acid. I shouldn't need much because when the water evaporates, just like look at that. Oh my god, it's disgusting. I'm getting water all over myself. Just like salt water or things that have stuff dissolved into it, when water evaporates, the rest of the solution stays put. So I probably have enough citric acid in here. I am just going to put a tiny bit more just for the sake of it. We're coming up on about an hour. So I did do things a little bit more slowly today, but now you have an idea of how fast the process goes. It does not go fast. It goes so slow, especially depending on the type of color that you're dyeing. So when you see colors that are self-striping, you can have a little more of an appreciation for how long things actually take, like the prep work that goes into it. This is very low prep work. This is probably the fastest dyeing that I could do. Covers would be a good idea in the hot summer months, wouldn't it? I like the steam bath. It's good for my pores. But we usually have air conditioners running, so I'm not always worried about the steam or humidity or whatnot. It doesn't bother me so much. If our house was hotter, if we didn't have air conditioning, then it would be much more painful. The winter time it's great to dye because you'll have the heat on, but it won't be on super hot. And the room that I dye my yarn in has the hottest heat, and it's really, really, really hot in there with the door closed, even when the heat's not that hot in the house. So I dry my yarn in there and it gets dry within like an hour. It's the most beautiful thing ever. Alright, so now I'm just squeezing the extra water. You can see what I'm doing. And then I'll show you the colors here. So everything's coming up really nicely in terms of colors. You see the speckling is very light. It's not too, oops, please don't do that. Please don't blow out. It's not too heavy. And the yarn base stayed cream, like the natural ecru color. So that's also an important thing. So I'm just finishing the rinse here on these. And I tried to be a little eco-conscious. When I'm dyeing, I really try to make sure that when I'm dyeing in the pan that all the dye gets exhausted so that I'm not washing dye down the drain. It's harder to do with some colors. What is that? This is yarn. This is the Luna colorway from my shop. So I just speckled this up and dyed it on camera so you guys can see how it is done. So now I'm just rinsing and putting it in the spin dryer. I have a gigantic spin dryer. You can't really see it. There it is right there. That was one of the first things I invested in because I was using a salad spinner and it was like breaking my back. So I invested in that just so I could have the yarn get spun out really well, and I could dye more yarn more fastly, more quickly. So I'm going to get ready for another colorway. Does anybody have any suggestions what they would like to see? I am happily entertaining colorway requests. This pan is very hot. I am burning my little fingers off here. These gloves do not protect from heat. You could use bigger gloves, but then I wouldn't have the precision for putting dye onto the yarn. Normally I would have like music going or a movie going while I dye, just to have, so this is me arranging, like before I said, instead of having it like this, the yarn lays flat like this. This is how I arrange it. So, blue, I can do something with blue. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll do his mother's eyes. So I have a colorway called His Mother's Eyes. It's based on Harry Potter, because most of my colors are Harry Potter. It's another speckled, a really delicately speckled color. And it uses 3 colors as well, but it uses a blue and green, kind of to pay homage to the book and the movies. The book, Harry Potter's eyes are green, and in the movies his eyes are blue. So I use 3 colors for that. Some of my colors I haven't labeled on top. So this is one. Any questions for me? Lux? Dusel? Lux? I can't say the first part of your name. Do you have any questions? So yeah, these things make it easy for me to see all my colors, so I always buy the small tubs and then I label the tops, and then I can go in and just pull colors when I want them and kind of put colors together in my head for the things I'm thinking of. As you can see, my cleaning cloths are getting quite dirty, as it usually happens. So if you're just joining in, we are dyeing just some random colors, whatever I feel like dyeing right now. I do have one dye that I have to do today, but I probably won't do it on the live stream for a custom order. And I'm just kind of dyeing up for Stock Shop. I just dyed Luna, which is one of my most favorite colorways. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying. It's very relaxing to do. I find a lot of peace. As long as my children aren't awake or they are away at school, it's a very relaxing and peaceful thing. I am limited to how much I can dye at once. 8 is the most I can really dye. So I just try to do as much as I can with the time I am afforded, and I find it to be very relaxing. So now I'm going to dye his mother's eyes. So his mother's eyes has a sagey green color, which is an homage to the Harry Potter books where his eyes are green. Then I have this blue color that breaks a nice purple. So that's the color I'm using to pay homage to the movies. And then I am using kind of a golden yellow. It's like a straw or wheat kind of color. And it's very yellow toned as an accent in there. So this is his mother's eyes. And again, it's a speckled color. I'm going to turn the heat up, so if it gets loud, I'm sorry. And then I always have my mask ready to go when I'm ready to dye. If I could prep some more. I might prep some more yarn. I think we'll have enough time. I think I could do one more dye lot before Chapter wakes up. So I use this yarn. This is just white acrylic. I think it's like Karen's Super Soft or something. It's something that I have in droves because I'm a crocheter. I like to use it because it's white, even though it's pretty much the same color as the yarn I'm dyeing. It doesn't really take up dye that much, and it's not going to bleed any dyes onto my final yarn. So that's the goal for me. So blue and green, yes, blue and green, because his eyes are different colors in the movie and the book. So I came up with the colorway and the colorway name. Someone had asked earlier, how I dye colors, if I dye them, on the spur of the moment, if I'm feeling inspired. And some colors I really do take the time. It's not just put colors in a pot and think of what fits. It's, thinking about something that I like, thinking about a movie, or thinking about a show, or a book, or a feeling that I want to portray. And then I sit with my colors and I think about it. I take a lot of notes on, the effect that I want to have. What kind of a yarn do I want to dye? Do I want it to be pooling? Do I want it to be tonal? Do I want it to be speckled? Do I want it to just be plain old variegated? And then I go to the dye pot and I dye it. And not every color comes out right the first time. So if you follow along my shop, sometimes you'll see one-of-a-kind colorways come up. For example, what's the one that was just in there? Professor Sprout. I think there's one. You need one of those. Professor Sprout is a one-of-a-kind colorway. I was dyeing my Cunning colorway, which is this Littlebean House colorway. And it just didn't come out the way I wanted it to. So I just dyed it up, made it look beautiful, and put it in the shop as a one-of-a-kind. Because it came out really nice. It came out as like a multi-dimensional tonal, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So there's just no mistakes. You gotta go into it. There's no such thing as a bad yarn, unless it's really bad. Like you made poo-poo brown, you can mix purple and green. Maybe that needs to be over dyed. But most yarns, if you're careful, if you know color theory, the color wheel, you can make some really cool combinations. And this is pretty much how my workflow goes. Aside from talking to myself or talking to you guys on the computer, I usually have a movie or music or podcast or something going while I'm dyeing, and I do prep work while I'm dyeing, one step. And if I'm waiting for something to happen, like the dye pots to heat up, then I'm doing something else productive. Otherwise, nothing would ever get done in this house. So I'm just tying up 4 more sparkles, and then I'm going to tie up 4 more every day. and soak them here. And I'll dye one more colorway after this. Stop spamming cats. Don't spam cats, Captain Smith. I was wondering if Nightbot was going to work in this chat. Okay, so I set up Nightbot through whatever to help me manage chat. Oh no. Oh, good. I'm glad it got blocked. It was a very awful thing. I do block people, you know, so, but I had it up just in case we had some people spamming or unwanted folks come in and just say crazy things. So I'm glad that got blocked because it was very offensive. Okay, there we go. Right. So those are coming up to temperature, which is nice. If you guys have any questions, nice job, Nightbot, yeah. You don't even want to know what it said. I can see it in the back end if I look, because I'm the administrator of this chat. So I can see what he wrote. You don't want to know what he wrote. It's not pleasant. That's okay. Not everybody has to be happy with life. or whatever. Anyway, do you guys have any other questions for me? Comments, requests? Take the brain of the dyer. That's a big mystery. What goes on in our heads? Even I don't know sometimes. Don't slip on the bags that are on the floor. Go, Chip. Folks use all different things for preparation, whether it's yarn or ribbons. I think Molly from a Homespun House uses ribbons for her dye ties. You can use different colored ties for different bases. If you have bases that look and feel similar, you can use different colors or different weights of yarn or different colors of shower curtain rings or whatever to differentiate. That's the word I'm looking for. Differentiate between yarn bases. So. This is like slow TV. Is anybody watching on Netflix the knitting championships or something? Like things to watch and have on in the background while you relax. Tying yarn skeins with really poorly sung background music. Okay, they're very hot. Oh, you tie faster. Tie faster. So things take a while to do, even tying yarn. It's harder to tie yarn when you have gloves on because your gloves just stick to themselves. That's why. Thrilling. Edge of your seat. Excitement. 4 skeins of yarn have been tied off. Okay, these are going to soak. Now I'm going to get to dyeing, which is the exciting part. Now that these other skeins are boiling, they come up to temperature. So the reason why you soak yarn, for those who may be curious and watching either now or later, is you want to kind of open the yarn for the dye to penetrate in the fiber. So soaking it, whether you use citric acid, which will help things adhere even quicker, or just in plain water, kind of opens the fiber. So you can dye a more even yarn. If your yarn is dry, it's not going to take the dye up as quickly as yarn that's already damp. So if your yarn's only partially soaked, or some parts are dry and some parts are wet, the parts that are dry are not going to dye as evenly as the ones that are already wet. If that makes sense. Okay, colorway. His mother's eyes, 3 colors, sagey green, blue that breaks purple, and a golden kind of yellow toned wheat straw kind of color. And those are going in the pot right now. So I'm going to speckle. Again, low water, high heat, high acid. I'm using dry powder. I speckle on my fingers. You can speckle any way that you want. This is not the only way to do it. We will start with the yellow as a base because this is the color that's more of an accent. And it's a lighter color, and I want to make sure I can put it where it will stay and it will show up later. I have to be careful because sometimes this color, you can see that color, it's hard to see it. There it is. So sometimes this color, even though, colors look different in the dye, the powdered form versus, the form that's in the acid in the dye bath. But these are blends of colors. So this isn't a primary color, this is a blend. So it's made up of all different kinds of colors. So reds and yellows and whatever go into this dye to make it what it is. So when you speckle it, this is a drawback of using dry powder. Sometimes you don't know how it is going to speck onto the fiber. So sometimes it will speck and it will break. The color will break. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like the color is yellow, but this color sometimes breaks red. So in some of my colorways that use this color, I'll end up with red spots. Not always intended, but if my heat's not high enough or whatever, the color will separate and it will absorb at 2 different times instead of absorbing all at the same time. So, just so you know. Alright, so now I'm going to do the green. This is kind of a sage. And again, I need very little dye. Like I am literally pinching the tiniest bit of dye in my fingers. I want to take my fingers off so I don't contaminate my dye pots, my dye canisters, I mean. Closing it up. So because I'm dyeing my kitchen, for those wannabe indie dyers out there, people looking to explore and to do stuff like this, I always recommend starting with food dye because you can dye in your kitchen and be food safe. So you don't have to worry about poisoning your family with chemicals that shouldn't be around food pots or pans or cups or whatever. I take a lot of precaution when I do dyeing. I clean out my kitchen, I do my dishes beforehand, and I don't use food, when I'm using dyes, I don't use food pans or food cups because the dye is toxic. It's not good for you. It's not, it's not meant to be ingested. So you could poison yourself. Or if you're breathing it in, you could really damage your lungs, which is why it's always important to use protection and not do it around young children or people who are sensitive to stuff like this. There's a bit of debate whether the fumes are toxic. like the citric acid. But citric acid doesn't go into the fumes of water. As far as I know, it's just like any other solution. If you're evaporating water from it, it should stay in solution. It'll just make the solution more concentrated. Are you just dyeing Luna? No, I dyed Luna already. I am dyeing his mother's eyes. So I don't know if I can see it a little. Like, it's hard to see the colors themselves, especially through the steam. So I'm dyeing his mother's eyes. But I was just going over some safety. You don't want to poison yourself. You don't want to inhale the dye. You don't want to eat the dye. It's very volatile and dangerous in its powder form, which is why I'm wearing a mask and wearing gloves. If you have it in a stock form, don't drink it. It's not food. It's not Kool-Aid, which is why you should have it up and away from children. So I dyed Luna already. So here's still soaking wet, but Luna. It's hard to show the colors because the white likes to make the camera freak out. So now I'm dyeing his mother's eyes. So anyway, those are the precautions that I take when I'm dyeing. I take them very seriously because I take my eye safety seriously and my family safety seriously. Except me with the mask because I hate them. So I hold my breath. Alright, these are going to take a little bit to set. So you can see when I touch it, you can see there's some dye on my fingers. That just means the color's not yet set. So I just have to wait. That's all it is. You sit here and wait and wait and wait and wait for something to set. Do you have any questions, comments? Again, I'm happy to answer anything, even if it's a question about me, or a question about business, or a question about yarn, or a question just for fun. Yeah, we have 20 people. Hello, 20 people. Say hi, nobody bites. Unless you're like Kevin Smith, who chatted something really vulgar in my nightbot time now. Don't touch boiling water. I have to give this warning every time. Don't touch boiling water with your hands. Okay, that's set now. So now I'm going to flip. Again, making sure that my yarn isn't like this, that the strands are kind of spread out, and that I'm not, like I'm dyeing on the part of the yarn that doesn't have any dye on it right now. And again, you don't have to have pans like this to dye like this. You can dye it in a circular pan. It's all up to what you have available. But if you're using acid dyes, like the dyes I'm using, you cannot use it in food containers. Like if you use your pans to eat, don't put dye in them. Unless it's food coloring, then by all means dye away, but not acid dyes. So I'm kind of squeezing excess water, and it burns! I know. Flipping, so you can see there's no dye on this side. You can see there's really no dye on this side at all. I flipped it over, spreading the strands of the yarn so that it covers evenly. Physics, people, physics. Now I'm going to flip these. You can see the monitors in the other room. I have a line view to it, and Tucker's rolling around like a chingalada in there. Rolling around. He needs to stay asleep. That's what Mommy says. Stay asleep. It's not time to wake up yet. I haven't dyed enough yarn. Alright, now that everything is spread out, we'll start again. I'm going to start with yellow again, and then do the green, and then do the blue. Again, this is a golden yellow color, and a sagey color, and then a blue color that breaks purple. And da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Super dyer. And yes, I shake the can. Why do I do that? I'm glad nobody asked. One, I have a really bad habit of shaking things before I use them, like lemonade or milk or whatever. I'm a shaker. I shake everything. But I do shake dye, even though I don't need to shake this right now. If it's been sitting on the shelf for a while, sometimes the larger particles or heavier particles can fall to the bottom of the can. So I like to give it a little shake and a little tap, kind of settle things down in there. Another reason why to wear a dust mask. But so everything mixes around evenly. Sometimes if you find that an acid dye is not mixing right, give the can a shake and then let it settle, and then use it, then mix it in, then dye it, then sprinkle it, whatever. And that usually fixes the issue. Here we go with the yellow. I feel like I need theme music. Okay, I was a little bit heavy-handed with the yellow. Whoops! That's okay. We'll just make up for it later. So I'm just sprinkling the remainder of the dye into the canister. Wiping my fingers, closing the dye. Always make sure you close your dye tightly. Never, never leave a can half open, because if you go to lift it by the cover, it is going to spill all over your world and destroy you. Inside, your soul will be dead because you've dyed everything in your house magenta. You know, like, that's like my worst nightmare is like picking up a dye jar and having it be open and just spilling dye all over the place. Like, that's what, like, with the kids running around, that's like my worst fear. All right, green goes in. Green, green, green. So exciting. Lots of green. I always found it funny that they changed his eye color for the movie. But I guess it makes sense why they would change Harry Potter's eye color. I mean, you're not going to ask, you know, an 8-year-old or 10-year-old kid. You're very welcome, hamster. Brotning. Well, you're very welcome. Why they changed his eye color? Because you're not going to ask a 10-year-old kid to put in contact lenses when they don't need it. You know, to change their eye color for a movie or do it in post-production, like, it's an easy story point to change. But oh, yay! Oh, awesome, Sylvia! I'd love to see a picture. Make sure you tag me in it. That's awesome. I think one other person finished Bellatrix, and they put up a picture. I don't know if it was you or not. I can't remember. Okay, blue. Here we go. Anyway, so I guess it's an easy enough plot point to change the eyes, his colored eyes. So that's why I put both in, because technically they're both right. All right, that's good enough. Good enough. I'm just gonna wait for that to kind of set. You can see places where I had more water, the dye has spread a bit. So, and different bases take the dye differently anyway. So a 2-ply yarn versus a 4-ply yarn versus a single, they're going to take dye differently. Look how broke. And I'm sweating with the glisten. The glisten from the dye pots is really getting strong here. I'm kind of jiggling it a little bit with the yarn to distribute heat. Alright. Let me not stain the rest of my yarn purple. You can see this blue has like a purple, there's a purple, reddish purple component to it. That when you speckle with it, the colors kind of hit at different times. So it's interesting to do stuff like that. Here's pretty much the colorway on a napkin. All over my hands. Does anybody have other questions for me while we wait for yarn to set? And I'm not wearing the really scary dust mask. That makes me feel like I'm going to suffocate forever. My dye wiping station is getting quite full over here. Basically, the worst mistake I ever made was not making sure that my hands were clean, and I picked up bare yarn from the sink, and I like stained it all like pink or something. Where's my yarn? The soak. These have been soaking. For those who missed, I have one more dye to do that I'll do on the stream, and then I'm going to end the stream. This is a very long stream. I thought it was worthwhile. And I got some water in my sink. It's weird, like on the camera, my body almost matches up. So like if I'm standing like this, it's like almost. Like my head looks really small, my body looks really huge. I thought this would be nice to have the dual camera set up so you're not just staring at my face while I'm doing mysterious things in pain. I mean, if you guys are up for another one, I mean, we are hitting an hour and a half. This is a pretty long stream. If you guys are up for another colorway, I will happily dye another one once this one is set and I can wash it. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the chat. And yeah. So these away. Then my other most popular colorway is Nymphadora. That color is a beast to dye. I use a fluorescent pink, and the fluorescent pink takes forever to set, which is, it takes like forever to set. I'm not even joking, like an hour to fully exhaust and saturate into the yarn, and even then, it's not even fully saturated. I don't know if any other dyers are watching, if you have other colors like that, but that color is notorious. Notorious. Don't touch the boiling water with your hands. That seems to be pretty set. You're fine. Just continue. This is very informational, meaning I'm warning you, please don't burn your hands in a boiling pot of water. This has taken a year of like resistance build up to heat. Chantel, do you have any suggestions for colorway that you'd want to see? Within reason. Can't do a self-striping right now. I don't have any yarn prep for self-striping. Alright, I'm going to remove these while I wait for suggestions. And these should be dry enough and ready to go for shopping Saturday. My fingers. Like, this is the part that burns the most because the steam gets let up and it hits you right on your thumb. Can you talk a little more? Okay, sure. I had a question. I'll just read it aloud. Can you talk a little more about the difference between superwash and non-superwash at the moment of the rinse? So superwash yarns have been treated, usually chemically, to prevent the yarn from felting. What creates felting is, heat temperature changes, so it goes from really hot to really cold, and agitation, and usually soap helps with that kind of stuff. So when you make felted dryer balls or something, you're putting soap and hot water and cold water, and you're really kind of making the fibers stick to one another. So felting is when the fibers of the wool mesh together and get tangled into like a singular force. So if you've ever put a regular wool sweater in the washing machine and dryer, it shrinks up and it's all stiff and it's stuck together like this, that's felting. So superwash yarns are treated so that they resist felting. If you work really hard, you can felt them, but they don't have the same properties, like the scales on the fibers aren't there. Did you do wormtail? I did wormtail last week. I still have skeins of wormtail in the shop right now. Anyway, so that's really what you want to avoid. So if you're dyeing a non-superwash yarn, you want to avoid what I'm doing right now. So don't do this. I'm taking it from the hot pan, using force to squeeze water out, which you should not do if it's hot, if it's non-superwash. Again, this burns my fingers. So I'm just blowing the steam away from me so I don't hurt myself. And then I'm just plopping it into a tepid bath that has eucalyptus soap, which is a gentle wool wash, to kind of rinse out the citric acid. And then I'm using cool water to cool it down gradually. If you have non-superwash wool, you want to let the yarn cool in the pan before you remove it to clean it. So non-superwash dyers, they take a lot more time with their process. Takes a lot more time in that. When I do mounting, I can do mounting. Although I'll have to get out my other pot. I can show you how. Yeah, that's a different dye technique. I can do that. So if I were to do this with a non-superwash wool and I'm trying to clean it out and I'm using just gentle movements in cold water, the wool would felt together. So because I dye superwash, I can kind of accelerate this part of the process. Palms haven't dyed in a while either. I love them all. It's like asking me to choose one of my children. Although I do have a favorite children. I could do either. I could do prongs or Mount Doom. I do have to start dyeing Mount Doom for the fall, but it's not a very exciting colorway. It's a very boring colorway to dye, but it's a different technique. If that's what you'd like to see, if you want to see a different technique, then I'm happy to do that. Anyway, so I hope I answered your question about superwash versus non-superwash. I'm trying to do like 10 things in my brain at once. So that's kind of the thing. You have to wait for the non-superwash to cool down. And then you can wash it. And you still want to use gentle motions. You don't want to agitate your wool too much. And it's the same thing when you're blocking. Also, if you're blocking a non-superwash item, you really want to be ginger about it. You don't want to sit there and tug on it and just wrestle with it because you will felt it. So do people have a favorite that they want? So right now we have Mount Doom and prongs. And I will dye one more color. They'll probably bring us up to 2 hours of streaming. So I can do either. If you want to see a different technique other than speckling, then I'm happy to do Mount Doom. If you want to see more speckling, I can do prongs. So everybody vote. Everybody chat, tell me what to do. I'm going to check on Tucker for a moment and let you guys decide. Okay, Tucker's awake, so that is going to change my pace. I'm going to do prongs because prongs takes less time. But next time I do a live stream of me dyeing, I definitely will do Mount Doom. So Mount Doom is a colorway that I started it out doing it as a hand painting. So it's a pooling colorway, which means all the yarn is colored in like stripes, like down the yarn skin. So part of it's black, part of it's red, part of it's yellow, and they all blend together. So I used to dye that as a hand paint. I would put it out on the table and paint it with the dye and then steam set it. So now I do it where I dip it into the pot. So I'll dip it into the red, and I'll dip it into the yellow, and I'll dip it into the black, and blend them all together that way. It takes a lot of time. So I'm going to do prongs. I hope you don't mind. Just so I can get this done before I have to go get Tucker. I'd love to see right now. You have to go grocery shopping. Okay, have fun, Samantha. See you, Sam. Have a fun time grocery shopping. I don't go grocery shopping with the kids. I don't. So yeah, the only reason I'm not going to do Mount Doom right now is because Tucker is awake. So I have 20 minutes literally before he's going to start freaking out. He'll be upset. He'll have me up there. Or he'll try to climb out of his crib, which I don't want. Because technically he could. This has been great. Have to get going. Oh, thanks so much, Lisa. I hope you enjoyed. You also have a great weekend. And if you guys have questions that you don't feel comfortable asking me on the stream, you're always welcome to send me a message. If you go to littlebeanlovesyarn.com, I do have a contact form there. Or I think my email is even listed on this YouTube channel, kayleen.weaver@gmail. I don't have a fancy email, like a business email. So, some other time, yes, definitely, I will definitely show it. It's a different technique. It's a technique where I dip into the pot, but it would just take too long for me to set up right now. If Tucker was still asleep, we'd have all the rest of the time in the world, but he is not. So I'm on a time clock. It's hot. It's hot. Don't put your hands in boiling water. I will say that forever. Right now there's just too much water in that pan. Low water, high heat. Citric acid. I didn't add any extra citric acid, but there's plenty of citric acid in there. Change the pH of the water. I don't get this to heat up. Again, a lot of waiting that happens when you dye. So while I wait, I'll get the colors. So prongs is also 3 colors. I try to keep it simple. You know, I try to have like 3 or 4 colors in a colorway. Some colors do have like 6 or 7 colors in them, but as a dyer and generally as a human, I only have enough memory and enough like writing power to like keep. Oh yes, I will definitely show you guys how it looks. If you follow on I'm sure you follow me on Instagram, but if you follow me there, I'll be posting pictures for the shop updates, so you'll see also the yarn in the pictures there. Because I don't know when I'm going to be able to film another podcast because it's busy summer, busy. Anyway, so I try and keep it simple because I want to be able to remember colorways. Like I can bring out my notebook and look at the techniques that I did, but I try and keep it, you know, 3 colors, 4 colors, 5 colors. You know, I try not to go over 5 colors per colorway just because it's a lot to remember. And Fedora has 2, 3, 4. That has 5 colors. That's a crazy colorway. But yeah, I'll definitely show you how skeins turned out. I'm Littlebean Crochet on Instagram, and that's where I usually am posting pictures of finished yarn. And I try to keep really consistent between dye lots. It's really hard when you're doing a speckling technique to get dye lots to be the same, which is why I like to do 4 skeins at a time, because say someone wants to make a sweater, I want to be able to dye it all at the same time so that they can use the same color and the same concentration, because even if I do the same technique and I'm sprinkling dry dye powder, it might come out differently for another dye lot, more saturated or less saturated, or more or less speckled, even though I'm using the same colors. I wonder how many folks will watch this, like future folks, and like make it to this point in the video, because we're at 1 hour and 41 minutes. Like this is probably the longest video I have ever uploaded to YouTube. But I hope people are finding it interesting or helpful or whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna get my colors while my yarn is setting. So we're dyeing prongs. So prongs uses this color and this color. So 3 colors. It's a brown that breaks red, kind of for Gryffindor. Go Gryffindor. This kind of like wheat yellowish wheat color, and then a sage. So that is what's going on the skeins, and I'm going to start with yellow. Folks ask me a lot, you know, what order do you dye things in terms of like light to dark, dark to light, and I tend to go light to dark. So the colors that are lighter, that don't spread as much, I tend to dye first, and then I go on. Again, I'm shaking. Lots of shaking going on. So I go from there, and then I go darker and deeper. Because you can't take away color, you can only add color. You know, once it leaves your fingers and goes onto the skein, that's it, it's on there. So I'd rather start light and use the light colors, or the colors that aren't as concentrated powders, or colors that I know aren't going to spread, so I know where they're going to be, and then I can place the other colors around it. My pile of, finger wiping implements is growing significantly. So yeah. So this will be 24 skeins total, which is about average for me. If I'm having a dye week, it's usually around 24 skeins. Sometimes it's all the same color, sometimes it's all different colors, depending on what people are wanting to see or looking for to use. A lot of folks will email me or message me on Instagram, which email is probably the best way to get in touch with me. but requesting certain colors come up in shop updates. So I always try to accommodate that to the best of my ability. So never be afraid to ask me for a color because I'm always happy to help. So now we're going green. The green is not the focus of this. It's light hand. Because the star of prongs is the brown, because prongs is Aries' dad, and his Patronus is a stag. So it is the fawn, the stag fawn, that kind of color brown, where it's a very more of a reddy tone, like more warm, like red, yellow toned brown. And this does break red, so I will get some red in this thing. Now the brown. So this color, this prongs color, I did the starting point. I did for the starting point in the String It Along. So for anybody who knit on that, I've been getting final pictures of how the sets knit up, and they came out so great. I'm so pleased with how the color looks and knits up. It just made my day to see it. So thank you if you are watching and you're one of those folks who have shared works in progress or finished objects of the prongs colorway in the starting point mystery one. They are crazy good. They came out so nice. I could not have been more pleased with how they came out. It made me very excited to see. So hello to everybody who's watching. There's about 23 of you guys watching, not many people chatting, so please don't be afraid to say hello. I do have the chat up on the screen so that anybody who watches this later can see any questions that you've asked. So if you do have questions for me, please feel free to ask. It could be helpful for you or for others who are watching later. I'm dyeing the prongs colorway. I've been doing speckles colorways. So far I've dyed Luna, and then I dyed his mother's eyes, and now I'm dyeing prongs, and this will be the last color that I dye today. I probably will be only streaming for the next 15 minutes or so because my son has woken up from a nap. He's only been asleep a couple hours, so that's all I get today to dye. So please feel free to ask questions or comment or anything. I'd love to hear from you. Now I have to wait for this to set. Some of this brown takes a little bit to set. Don't touch boiling water. That's going to be the theme. That's what I should have just named this stream the Don't Touch the Boiling Water stream. I don't want to get an email from someone saying like, "Oh, I touched the boiling water. She did it on her live stream." And then please don't do that. Keeling, could you make a gold with dark blue on sparkle? I'm going to make 5 shells for my dad. Guys, 70th birthday! 70th birthday, that's awesome. A gold with dark blue. Like speckled color? Like a speckled color? What kind of a yarn are you looking for? Because I could do that. Hello from Germany. Hello, Kiara. Hello. Willkommen the stream. I don't speak German. No sprechen Sie Deutsch. I only know like 3 words in German and that's it. I know how to say I have a headache. Ich habe Kopfschmerzen. I think that's it. That's it. That's all I know. Oh, I'm sweating. I don't know if you can see like how shiny my face is, but like having the steam coming off of these tables, it's crazy. These are almost set. But again, these are much hotter than I normally do. Tonals I don't use it. Okay. Yeah, I could totally do that. Send me a message send me a message on Etsy so that I can keep track. Put in a custom order request, and then we can chat on Etsy for like inspiration photos and colors, like a specific type of colors that you're looking for, and we can work together and make someone special. Like, what's great about the live stream is that I don't have to. I'm dying. That I don't have to edit this later. Like, what takes forever? Oh, you're very welcome, Island Mom. Thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something. What's nice is I don't have to edit it, because normally a podcast would take me 2 hours to film, and then I would have to sit and edit it for a couple of hours. So this will go up live. And even though I'm not showing you like my whips or my finished objects or whatever, it it still is something to learn from, which is something that I care a lot about, especially on my channel, like giving you guys content, like something that you can learn from and use and just enjoy generally. So I don't have to edit this, and I get to chat with you guys, which is great. It just stinks because I don't have much time available, and like the peak time for people to be watching live streams on YouTube is not at noon on a weekday, unless you're a stay-at-home mom like I am, or if you are a teacher and you're on summer break right now, or you just happen to be off from work. So that's another reason why I wanted to have the chat here on the screen, because then anybody who missed this can watch and learn along and get the answers to your questions also. Because live streams shouldn't just be for the people who are watching right now. You know, I feel like live streams can be really useful for the people who watch it later. And I often find myself not liking to watch live streams unless I can see the chat on the stream. Because for me, I like to be able to read all the comments that have been going on through the stream, because the streamer doesn't, like for me, there are only a few of you guys watching, so I'm able to read and interact and kind of read everything that's going on. But if you have a lot of people watching you, the chat goes really fast, so I like to be able to read along with kind of the mood of the stream and how people, like the questions that people are asking or other people are answering in chat, because that's really, or in Europe, yes, in Europe. My brother, he's a streamer. He streams on Twitch, usually during the week. He streams at 1 o'clock on Twitch, and all of his viewers are from Europe because they're all off work, and so, which is really cool, because then you get to connect with people from the other side of the world. But, you know, in terms of language, it might be difficult to understand. I do speak pretty quickly, so I try to be cognizant of that. Alright, so I'm going to speckle this other side, let it set, rinse it, and then I'll close off the stream probably in about 10 minutes. So if you have questions, things that you want to have answered before I finish, then please feel free to ask them, and I'll answer them as best I can. Well, I'm doing flowers for Dobby. I can. If you are wanting to see it, I will do it. On which base? What base are you looking for, Sylvia? I can do it on any weight. Flowers for Dobby is one of my most favorite colorways. It's one of those colorways, it's not done on the ecru yarn, so I do light washes of color on the base yarn, and then I speckle pink on it. It's really a simple color, but it's really fun. I enjoy it a lot. Just let me know, Sylvia, what base you're looking for, and I can make it happen. As long as I have it available to dye on. I'll do it. So green. Everyday soft. No, I'll do it. I'll do a whole dye lot of them. And I'll just put them in the shop. I'm not going to do it right now because I have to get Tucker. But maybe for next week's update, or if I have a chance to dye tomorrow, then I can do it for you. I don't mind doing a whole dye lot, even if you're just going to get one skein, because everybody loves flowers for doggy. I'm so sweaty that it's sticking to me. Okay, now the brown. The final flourish shall be brown. Okay, so this is done. Like the dye, like the actual dyeing of the yarn is so quick. Like everything else, you're waiting for the yarn to soak, you're waiting for it to come to temperature, you're waiting for it to set, you're waiting for it to rinse, and you're waiting for it to dry. It's like the dyeing portion of dyeing yarn is literally this much. You know, it's very little. So my hands are so like clammy. I can't have gloves with powder. My hands just get so clammy. But I'm done with the dye. Sure, whatever happens for I did a gradient set that was gray, and it was called the Gray Lady. But I could do a Gray Lady colorway, undertone or something. I do have the other color that is Ravenclaw related is the Lost Diadem, which is a pretty simple colorway. It's a gray base with blue speckles, like the craft, like the diadem. So that's another Ravenclaw color that I do. I haven't dyed it in a while, but I can if you'd like to see it. Okay, so I'm going to start cleaning up. You can see a little bit of the cleanup that I do. So I have all my dye napkins, which are going to go in the trash. Excuse me. Sorry for that. I'm just adding more water to my rinse thing. We love them. Okay. I think that one too. Add a pump of soap in here so that this yarn can get clean. Some fresh water to rinse. Again, don't touch the boiling pots, please. It's not quite set yet with the clear dye coming off. This is me putting away the dye. Making sure they're all closed and put away because I don't want my kids to touch them. And then these, I store them on a shelf, which is high up out of the kids' reach. They're not locked up. Ideally, I'd like to have them locked up, but for now, they're in the corner of my kitchen here. You see those shelves? Oh, they're behind the cabinet here. There's built-in shelves there on the wall. And so I store my dye canisters in the Tupperware containers, pushed into the second to the top shelf. Like barely enough so I can reach it, but the kids wouldn't be able to get it. This is really nice too because I'm able to get work done and do kind of a podcast all at the same time. So I'm taking some cleaner and I'm wiping down any surface, like all the surfaces that I touched or that had dye canisters sitting on them, which isn't very much. I literally have, I'll make the dye that comes up. I only have a few feet of counter space. I have probably a foot by 2 feet here, and then on this side I have a drying mat which helps prevent the spilling of the water to ruin my countertop, but I literally have inches, which is usually where I keep a bowl or I keep my paper towel, and then I have my sink. So I'm very limited on space. I see a lot of folks, like dyers, who like complain, like, oh, I don't have that much space, but they have like a kitchen island or their own dye studio, but it's really small. And I'm operating out of like a single room operation, like things stored in random places, and only like 2 feet of stuff. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us. Looking forward to your update with photoshopping. Have a great weekend. Oh, bye, Sylvia. Bye. Love you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad that you liked it. I hope that you're able to tune in next time or when I have a podcast. I hope to see you there. And for everyone else who's watching, not just Sylvia, I really hope to see you guys in my next podcast. That would be great. And hopefully a lot of more chatter. Hopefully I catch more people. Or if I could do this on a weekend, that would be nice. If I had a little quiet time. If Tyler was out with the kids, I could do a live stream on a Saturday or Sunday and kind of go through that, and I probably would have more people, hopefully. Or more people. Don't burn your fingers. It's hot. So I blow the steam. Steam rises. Just so you know. So I just try to blow the steam only so don't kill my fingers. Alright, so this is going into the rinse. See the colors are nice and speckled. The base stayed a nice ecru with a slight brown tint, which is what it should for this colorway. Turn my hands off. Thank you. Everybody's like, oh, okay, good. Chantal, let me know what you need, and we can work it out. So it's great. Things are looking good in the dye sink. There's no bleeding, which means everything was set well. So you can see here on the stove, I'm sure it's hard to see, but there's some dye spillage that'll get cleaned up as well. Alright, so I guess I am just going to end the live stream here. I can show you prongs. And you guys will see this if you follow me on social media. If you follow on Instagram, you can see these yarns. It'll be in the shop on Saturday for update. It's usually 1 p.m. Eastern time. But here's prongs. I know it's hard to see. The light, the camera's not great for this kind of stuff. But I hope for all of you guys who are new dyers or are looking to learn, I hope that you found this helpful. This is a long stream, it's 2 hours, so I don't expect everyone to watch this whole thing all the way to the end. If you did, put a thumbs up in the comments if you made it all the way this far. But I hope to see you guys in my next live stream. I'll try and do another live stream where you guys can see a different dye technique that's not necessarily speckling. Depending on the technique, you might not be able to see or watch the whole process because some processes take like hours to do, but I'll do my best to get you guys some information. And if you have questions for me, If you didn't ask in the chat, or if you'd like to ask in comments, please feel free to leave a comment down below. If you like these type of videos and you want to subscribe, please do. I really am trying to be better about uploading more frequently and trying to get my life a little more in balance so that I can help you guys learn and share the things that I'm doing with you, because that's what I really want to do. Yeah, I hope you guys have a good weekend. If I see you tomorrow, that would be wonderful. I do have a shop update at 1 p.m. Eastern, littlebeancrochet.etsy.com. And if you have ideas for things that you want to see, perhaps in a live stream format where you can ask questions, I'm happy to do it. Just leave it in the comments down below. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great weekend.